Hello again, and welcome to another tutorial in the art of camera and lens repair. And this time I will actually show you how I have or will re-lube my old Nikon Ai-s 85mm and aperture 2. And I will re-lube it with the grade 10, which is this stuff here from Japan Hobby Tool. I cannot read any Japanese or Japan language, so I would guess there is something like grade 10 grease, helicoid grease. Now, to actually get into the lens and open it, we need some tools, and I use my PH00. It's a modified Phillips screwdriver, which I filed the very pointed tip, so it will act as a JIS, just like this one from Moody Tools. I prefer the Vera because it have a good grip, and the tip is, just a little better in my opinion. This also works, but this is just my meaning. Some dentist tool can also be very handy. You can get them probably cheap in the at your dentist, maybe used or something, or in a second-hand shop. This is an brand called Zenit. It's a Danish brand. Yeah, it could be whatever. You can get them, search on the internet. We will also use a 1.2mm flathead screwdriver. And we will use some pair of tweezers, different kind. And of course a brush for the grease here is also very handy. This is a makeup brush, whatever. But it's very good to actually use with those fine grease. Now let's get into it, because the focusing ring here is quite stiff, and I would like to actually make it more soft. And so to actually disassemble the whole thing, we need some taking things apart. Now first, there is a little set screw up here on the front barrel, which we need to take out with a 1.2mm screwdriver, flathead. It's the only screw with this flathead, so that should be quite easy. So just loosen it and then unscrew it. If the ring sits really too tight, one could use some of those sticky gloves from the hardware store. This is a flexible basic 1006, and it's a brand called Oxon or no Oxo. I don't know. I would guess it should Oxon. But it's really good to working with this sticky stuff. So unscrew it fully. And so this is the name ring. The name ring and the front tube here is one thing. As it will say, it's not possible to unscrew the name ring itself, because you have to unscrew the whole part here. Next thing is to actually take off the front lens group, because we will clean the inner helicoid. So set it to near end and set the aperture to something like 2. so you have a grip down here. It will be easier, because if you hold in the focus ring, well, it is possible, yeah. I just forgot. So unscrew it. This ring is loose, I mean easy to loosen, because I have just been into the lens and cleaned the sticky aperture plates and assembly. So there's no need for doing any more there. Now, the next thing is to actually take off the rubber here. And for that, it's quite easy to use a dentist tool. You could also use a maybe a flathead screwdriver or something like that. But I like this tool because it's soften the corner. So it's good to work with that. Now away with that. And there is a ring here on the front of the focusing ring. So if, I mean, it's not the case here, but it could be there is a lock screw here, a tiny one. There are some, in some lenses there are one, and others no. I mean, there is a kind of a thread in here, but there's no set screw. In other lenses there are maybe 2 or 3. So, but we have to unscrew this ring here on the front. It can sit tight, and if so, we'll use some nail polish remover to actually soften the thread lock that is in here. So I will just show how this is done by adding a little nail polish remover. So, and you simply add it into the hole here. If there was a set screw, it would be there to add the nail polish remover. So, and let it just suck all in. You could also go other places and add it too, but it's not the case here. So just have a good grip on the focusing ring and then unscrew it. It will be a lot easier to unscrew. So it comes off without any problem. And then we actually look into the part of the focusing helicoid. But there's one thing we need to do, which is very important. Set the lens to infinity here. And there are 3 screws in here. Have a good grip here so the focusing ring will not move all the way over to infinity. Then set a small mark somewhere in here on this brass ring, so you know, okay, it's in line with the infinity almost. It's not that important with the brass ring. It's more the focusing ring and the inner part. So I will just take off this, unscrew the 3 screws around here, simply take them out. It's good with a magnetized screwdriver, so it will be a lot easier to get the parts out. And now out with this brass ring. It's very thin, so don't bend it. This ring and the 3 screws is actually holding the focusing ring in place. Now set a mark in here where the focusing ring sits. I already been into the lens, but set a mark here on the focusing ring outer edge on the focusing ring, which we can see here. So you know where this the middle focusing helicoid has to sit when it's on infinity. It's also the way you adjust the focusing, the infinity. So if infinity is not good, you can just unscrew those 3 screws, move the focusing ring a bit, press down and move it here. So you will actually, if it's over there, you can just move the focusing ring here to the end stop. There is a stop here, and there's also the other part of the stop on the focusing ring. So it cannot go any further. But if the infinity is not infinity, but not far out, it will be the way we adjust it. So it's quite easy. But set with the infinity, and remember the mark in here. Over the focusing ring, don't touch anything. And then we have a mark here where I set on the focusing helicoid, and I will also set a mark here on the most inner helicoid, and I will also set it out on the outer part of the helicoid focusing system here. So they are all in line. So this is my starting point. So that's it. And now I will take off the mount to get further into the focusing helicoid system. And it shouldn't be that hard to actually open. If there is any, if the screws are really too tight, one can also just use a little nail polish remover and add on the screws. As I can just show with one screw. It's not a problem with this lens because I've been into it, but you can just add and let it suck in to all the 3 screws if they are too tight. It will not damage the screw or the screwdriver. So since I have my starting point, I can simply just disassemble the whole thing. Set the aperture to 16 and take out the mount here. There's one thing to mention, that the where did it go? It's over here. Where is it? That tab. Okay, I will just show when I take it apart. So take out the mount, and this tab here is going into the notch here on the aperture ring, which is here. And the fork, this fork here, will go over the pin, which is this pin here. So over the aperture ring I will also clean that because it needed. And now we are into the actually basic part of the lens, and I will also take off the index ring here, which sit by 3 screws, one there, there and there. This little pin spring will also come off. And remember how it is facing. And just to remember how it should sit, one can add a little scratch here, so we actually know how it should sit before taking it apart. I haven't found a repair manual for this lens, so this is why I set marks different places in the lens, just to prevent anything wrong happen. So set also a mark here where the index mark is, so you will know where this index ring fits when it's correct. So just set it here. No one will see it, so it's without any marks when the lens is finally assembled it again. So there, and the last screw. So, and one can simply just take it off. This way it comes off. And it will also make it a lot easier when assemble the whole system here, because I know where my marks is, and I also set some marks where the helicoids come off the thread, which is really important. Now, there are two guide pins in here, one on each side, here and there, and I set it with number 1, just to prevent it goes wrong when I assembled it. So I set a mark here, and also a 1 mark here and a 2 here. So it will nothing wrong will happen. So unscrew those. It's easily done. And out with those pin and the other one. And now remember, the lens will be free. It will say it's possible to move the focusing ring, so everything can go wrong. But hold on a second. Now the last guide pin, when it's off, one have to take care of the marks here. So we'll just take that out. Have a good grip so nothing is moving. So out with that. And this guide pin, I think it's called a guide pin. Well, now everything is actually loose. It will say I can move the inner helicoid and I can move the outer helicoid. So therefore it's very important that you set marks before you disassemble things. So but I need to take out the inner helicoid with the aperture assembly. Well, I could take it out before cleaning, but I want to just see how bad it is or how much grease there are on. So, but before we actually disassemble anything, we need to measure how long is from there to there. So there should be something like 45 point, it's not that, Sorry, it was just me. It should be something like okay. That was just a point I was not aware of, because I was actually sorry, I was actually measure the whole system, the whole focusing system, but as it is now at infinity. But I measure it at with the front lens on, the front lens group onto the front here until the point here. So but before we take it apart, it should be something like 36, something like that, 0.95. So we'll just write it down. 96. So now I know where things should sit, and then I can take out the inner helicoid. I will do so, and it's will take some, because the thread is very cross. It's not that fine like the focusing ring. So I will turn it, and there will be a point where there is a mark where the focusing helicoid here comes off, and I set it here. This is why why it comes off here. So when it comes off, it will say there, set a mark where it comes off. Since this is a multi-thread helicoid, you will have plenty of attempts if you get wrong. So remember that. So when putting it back in, it can be a little tricky to catch the threads. So it's there, and it's off. So that's part of it. Just like the inner helicoid, the focusing ring itself also needs to come off, but it's a you need to unscrew it, and we can just measure it before we take it out. Just doing so, and it should be something like 20. Oh, sorry. Now you can see it. 28, something like 70 or so. There. And then, now I know that, I've written it down, then I can turn the focusing ring itself, but it should be clockwise. So count, I have my reference mark here, my mark on the focusing ring, and then turn it 1, 2, 3, where did my mark go? 3, there, and let's see again, just measure it back. Since I haven't taken it off yet, I still have my what I've written down, just to have the correct measure. Where is my mark? Yes, somewhere there. it is. So I can just measure. Okay, I'm back on track. But so this is why it's so important to set a mark before you take it apart, because you have no idea how long it can take. So we measure, we count again. This mark is in line with the other, and then I go 1 there, 2, 3, and it should be a bit over, I mean almost a half, 3.5 until off. So I turn the other ring, and then I have set a mark here because I know it comes off there before I took it apart, and I didn't measure all 3 revolutions. We start over again just to get everything correct. There should be one more turn, should be there. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sorry, I read it wrong. It should be 4 and a little more when it comes off there. So 4.5, I mean almost 4.5 turns till off. So now we know that. And then it's time to clean the helicoids with lighter fluid. So I will be back in a few minutes. So now everything is clean, and now it looks okay. So it's ready to be put together after the cleaning with the lighter fluid, which is really good for that. To clean this, the aperture, I mean the inner helicoid with the lens element and the aperture assembly inside here, you simply hold the lens upside down, I mean with the front upwards, and then just with a brush and simply add a little lighter fluid and simply go around. So there will not coming any liquid in here. There was something here, but it doesn't matter to me. Just wipe away a little bit. So it's fine. So that's good. I think there are tiny fragments of small stone, sand or something like that. It will just make it easier to get everything in correct order. Well, I should have made the focusing issue before doing the aperture, but since I was in the lens with the aperture assembly, I think okay, it's time for a focusing cleaning. Now all parts are here and ready to be lubed and put in again. So and I will use the the grade 10 from Japan Hobby Tool. It maybe needs some so is simply a great grease for lenses. Some lenses they are not good on, but in other lenses it's really good. So just add a little. It's not necessary to use a lot. A little will do the long. So, oh, something come out here. And when it's at here, I will just put in the focusing ring itself. And by the movement of the parts, I will spread the loop in here. So find my mark, which is here, close to the edge of this where the aperture ring is moved. And then I have my mark here on the focusing ring, and find the arrow where the thread comes off, and simply put it on and do some movement all the way in and all the way out again. And it should actually be enough. Where my mark here, and another turn, there it comes off. That's enough of grease on this helicoid, and then I can just put it on again, find the thread, and then from here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I'm home here. Now I can add the grease on the inner helicoid on the focusing ring and put in the lens assembly. So the thread, I mean the grease has to go into the threads, not all over the place. So, and let's see what's happened. Now my my mark is here. Just have to find the arrow I set here where the off, which is here, close to the aperture pin, and simply put it on. And it can be a little tricky to put them on sometimes because they're very precise fit. And one have to move, yeah, there it is. And we are home again. Then do some movement to spread the grease. So it's there. Just check my measure that everything is good. The focusing ring here and the outer, how should that measure? It would say something like there. Oh, there. And the full focusing assembly should be something like there's something wrong here, I guess so. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, and it's the same again. The something like that. And here we ended up with the same measure like we before I took it apart. So that's actually good. And everything runs really smooth. So now I can put in my 2 guide pins. And they also need some, I mean, just a little amount of grease to run to the notches on each side. Just clean them a little. So they work. Not with the old grease, but with the new. So. And I have number 1 and number 2. And load a screwdriver with a screw first, because then it's easier to assemble again. Where's my number 1? This is number 1 here. And then I should just add a little grease there and there, and we could also do some just a tiny fragment. It doesn't have to be that much, so you can see, and a little. So, and now we are ready to put in here. So just move a little and everything is fine, and then hit the screw into the hole. Now I'm actually safe so nothing will fall apart right now. Let's see how it will go. Okay, wow, smooth and easy to move. That's great, just like a new lens. Then add this pin, guide pin here, and then put in the screw, the other one, gently tighten it, and of course I can just add after I put it in. I will just sooner before I put on the mount, I will just add a few drops of nail polish here to prevent the screws from loosening itself. So now the focusing is really good. Then I can add the index ring, and as you might remember, I set a mark here. I set a mark here, and I can simply just add this index ring on. It can only sit in one position, but still it's good to set a mark somewhere in the so it will be easier to put back in again without any questions or okay, should it sit there? Maybe, or maybe not. And this screw here, and the last one. And there and there. So that's fine, and then I can add the little tiny spring. And also again, since I set my mark here, I know exactly where this should sit when I put it in, without any okay, should it be there or there? No, I'm 100% sure it should sit there. And also where the click should be, so adjust it to the mark I set. So it is, and then this screw goes in. And I can also just add the front lens group, so it's done, and nothing will go into the back lens, inner lens. So now, and then I can add my focusing ring itself, and also add a screw there. Now set the focusing in line with the 3 marks you set, and I also set a mark here, which you possibly remember. So I can just set it here, hold it, and then add the thin brass ring, which also have a mark here, and put it on there, and simply put in a screw there. Oh gosh. Tighten it gently, and then we are actually almost. So, and the last one. So it's actually quite simple to re-lube an old good lens, so it will work again. And again, if the focusing is not good, wow, it's really good. I think I will just adjust the back here just a little, because it can feel a little tight. So it should be there. Wow. Huh. So you see, if the focusing ring is a bit stiff when set it to, for example, near end or infinity, one can just unscrew, just loosen it slightly, so the pin, the guide pin in here and here, will be put into correct place, and then tighten the screws again. Because if not, the focusing ring could be a little stiff, but I can use one finger to just move the focusing ring, so it's fine. Wow. Great. Now I can simply add the aperture ring. This also needs to come on. Have the click here. It's a bit hard in the movement, so I will simply add some, just a tiny fragment of helicoid grease, which will help a lot. And make it much easier to move. So there. Wow. Just like new. Do some movement and then you have it. This has a really good click here. So that's good. Now I will put on the front of the focusing ring. So then put it on there and set it to something near end, and then add the name front ring. Has to say click somewhere. Sometimes it's difficult. Click there. Here we go. Set it still, have it to near end when you add the front ring here, and then fully screw it in. So, and there it is. I could have set the mount on first, because then it would have the prevent the focusing ring from moving, but well. So now gently tighten the set screw. Wow. Simply just like new. Maybe even better. Then add the rubber ring, and then we are almost there. So then the mount should come on, and set it to infinity. Then add the mount. The fork goes into the pin here, and this pin here goes into the notch in the aperture ring. So set it to something like 22. Then it should be possible to put it on, put it over the pin, the little pin here goes on the aperture ring. So, and here we are. Then add the three screws on the mount. And if you want to have it sit tight, you can just use just a tiny drop. I can just show it. Just a tiny drop of thread lock here. It shouldn't be that much, because you have to unscrew it sooner or later. So, and if it's too tight when you unscrew, you try to unscrew it, you can just use nail polish remover to actually soften the thread lock, which is a good thing. Just a tiny drop, that's more than enough. And then tighten the screws, not too much. So that was actually that. Now my lens is actually working so good. Before it was really tight in the, and the aperture is also working. I mean, that's just kind of a new lens. So that was all for me now. So hope you enjoy the content and can use the information in trying to repair your lens. There might be some difference, but still, it's the way it is. So that's all for me. Bye bye.